Hey, this is Aaron Price doing another episode of Have a Sip podcast. Today, our guest is Missy Elkins with Title. It's first choice title. Just moved to a new location, so congratulations.
Thank you.
But we are going to get into all things title, try to keep it at a base entertaining level, because you can go kind of deep in the weeds in this thing, and to tell you the truth, it's right over my head. I've done a ton of transactions, and it's still something that I don't understand fully. So it's a complex issue, but there's reasons for it, and they do protect you as a consumer. So Missy, thanks for coming in.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
How long have you been in the title business?
So I am going on my 29th year.
29 years. That's
I
a
started
long
when I was a
time.
baby.
So you're a lifer.
I'm a lifer.
So any idea, did you ever keep any count of like how many total transactions you've closed, or just a rough and dirty number?
I have not. I've thought about it over the years, but I think it would probably be too scary for me because that would prove that I've been doing it for way too long.
Yeah, I tell people in my business, because I do inspections and I've done them for insurance companies for years, over $100,000 or 100,000 houses.
Oh, wow. Well,
So
I
it's
can
crazy.
probably say over the span of how long I've actually been doing closings, I would say easily thousands plus
Yeah.
and then some, depending upon.
So when you do that kind of volume, all kind of crazy things come up,
Oh, very much.
and you're there to protect the consumer. What is title, and why do we need it?
So basically, title insurance is protection for the actual consumer, if you will. So let's say you buy a house and there is title is completely clean, or so you think it is. You go to closing, you sign all your papers. Next thing you know, you turn around and you try and sell. Well, the title company that did the closing for you missed a mortgage. The title company that did a closing missed a deed. There was somebody that was actually in title that didn't sign off. Well, guess what? You have a cloud on title that you were not aware of. And that's basically what title insurance does. It protects from the time that you actually buy the property forward, or I should say backwards, excuse me, when you actually buy it. So you never know what you're buying until it's actually done. And there's a lot of people out there that think that title insurance isn't necessary. There's no big deal. I'll go and do a handshake and a quick claim deed and I'll be done. It's not that simple because, in fact, what happens if you get a quick claim deed from one of the owners? Well, there's three owners. You've now think you have full rights to this property when in all actuality you really don't. And you just lost thousands of dollars because you didn't do your research and you weren't protected properly.
Got it. So it basically, protects you, the consumer, in case there's a disputed title, there's a
Correct.
relative that we didn't know about,
Correct.
and they come saying, this is my house.
Correct.
And that guy never had the legal right to sell it.
Correct. I have
So-
one right now.
Okay. So when that happens, let's say you've already moved in the house and you've been in there for, a year or two.
Correct.
It's my home, living in it, raising my family. What's the process? What is that like?
So basically, you come back to me and you let me know, hey, there's a guy knocking on my door stating that this is my house and I need to know why. And we at that time go through and do our due diligence to make sure that we didn't obviously mess anything up. Go back through the chain of title to see, does this person actually have a valid right to that property? If they do, then we put in a claim through our underwriter, and our underwriter actually goes back and fix it, hence title insurance. And that's what they do behind the scenes. The actual underwriter that we write on goes through and now absorbs the claim and takes care of whatever it is. Now, bad side of that is if I just blatantly forgot or missed the deed requirement myself, then I now have to pay for that because that was my mistake under my errors and omissions policy.
Can you tell us what the wildest, craziest moment that's ever popped up before you've gone to close a transaction?
Before I've actually closed a transaction has been, I'm married. What do you mean my wife has to be here? I'm sorry, what? Or the wife is like in California and we have to now get her into Florida rather quickly because the fact that under homestead property in the state of Florida, spouse has to sign. So that is one thing that a lot of people don't seem to understand, that you have a partner in life and that partner in life has to sign on the actual mortgage. Whether they're entitled or not, they still have to know. And that's been my biggest hurdle
Has
It's,
that come up at the table,
oh, yeah.
like in the middle of the
Oh, yeah.
deal?
Oh, yeah. Or they look down and they're like, I'm not single. I'm married. I'm sorry, what?
Oh
What
my
just
God.
happened here? Yeah, it does happen. And it's the same thing when you sell too. If it's homestead property, you still have to have the joinder and consent of your spouse to sell that piece of property. And the same thing when you go to buy. That is the hardest thing to make anybody seem to understand in the transaction, that there are two of you
Yeah.
that are actually in this transaction for homestead.
Everybody's got to turn their key to sell.
They do.
And if you got
They
a
do.
I guess, an inherited property, bunch of kids,
Yep.
one of them's holding out, that disagrees with the sale,
They
they
can
can
hold
stop
out.
it.
They do.
Okay.
Yep. That's where you have to get a really good attorney and try and figure out how to actually resolve it, whether it's court order, whether it's special magistrate, whether it's you pay them more money through the estate. They have to sign somehow, some way. Everybody's got to be involved and sign off on it.
What is the investigation into these properties like on the back end? You know, you're in the office, kind of like a crime scene investigator, is what I picture.
Right.
How's this thing going down the line? I mean, what does that process entail? Is it
So basically, what happens is our underwriter does the title search. They do the search of the entire property, whether it's from 5 years ago or whether it's from 50 years ago, depending on how far back they have to go for the actual vested deed. And you kind of see all the paperwork in between of what has happened. Is there a death? Is there a marriage? Are there mortgages? Are any liens or anything there? And then you dig in deeper to find out, okay, is this property really clean? Did they actually mean to pay this loan off because they never got another mortgage behind it? Is this faulty? And then you run into your false sellers and your false buyers to where they pretend to be somebody that they're really not, which you get into that a lot lately too when it comes to vacant homes, of trying to actually figure out, are you a real human being or are you AI? And
right?
there's a lot of that is going on right now.
How many fraudulent transactions? I mean, is it pretty common? Like, does it happen once, twice a year, or
So
once, twice a month?
I would say once or twice a year. They are getting better at trying to create themselves to be the actual seller or buyer in the situation. I have managed to stop a couple of them to where I went so far as to actually go through and do research myself. Thank God for the, internet being there. And I found the gentleman that actually lived in New York. I called the gentleman in New York and he's like, I am not selling my property. I do not have it for sale. This explains why I'm getting so many phone calls from realtors, is because of the fact there was another gentleman that was pretending to be him. And we had to do an actual police report. We had to do everything. It was crazy.
Yeah, fraudsters going to fraud.
Fraudsters are going to fraud. Yep.
Let's say there's a lien on a property that nobody knew about. What happens next?
So basically, what happens is we have to determine, for one, is it valid? We have to determine, is there anything that's actually due on it? A lot of times there are open credit lines that people tend to forget about because the fact they look at it as a line of credit, not necessarily secured by their house, but it's just a line of credit that they can get money off of. So that's my biggest one, is people tend to forget they have a credit line. But if there's somebody that got sued, if there's somebody that has a judgment against them, there's even where people have been arrested and you have court costs that now are filed through the actual clerk's office. That's all liens. They have to be paid. And a lot of people don't understand that or know that it actually affects them, and it affects their title of, that's now a cloud on title. It has to be cleared no matter what.
Right.
And it has to be paid.
Contractor liens as well?
Contractor liens as well. Contractor liens are good for a year,
Oh, okay.
depending upon the actual type of lien. There's notice of commencements that are there. Notice of commencement is only good for a year as well. We have to actually terminate the notice of commencement, and most people don't understand why. It's because the contractor or subs can come back and actually file liens in that time. Even though the work's done, they can still come back and say, I never got paid. I never got anything from this deal. So we have to make sure as a title company that they're basically dead. And that's exactly what I tell the seller at closing. I am killing your notice of commencement so that at this point in time, nothing else can come of record.
Have you ever had to track down a contractor
Yes.
and maybe they've gone out of business, or
Yes.
they're gone.
They're gone. So in that case, what we end up doing is we actually file a notice of termination, and we don't attach the actual contractor's affidavit, but we do have the paid receipt in our file showing that it was actually paid. It was never processed thoroughly for the actual back end of it to get the signed contractor's affidavit. So there are ways to go around and get it completed. Do I like doing it? No.
No.
But sometimes you have to be able to do it.
Yeah. I mean, they go out of business. They move along.
They do.
Hard to track down.
They do. And especially when we had all the hurricanes that came through.
Yeah.
You were seeing people that were flooding the state to try and do roofs and repairs and everything else. And they were here today, gone tomorrow. They literally took your money and ran. There were a lot of those.
So that's something like if a buyer's looking at a flipped home, a renovated home, that could potentially come up
They could.
because a bunch of work got done.
The bunch of work got done. And the same thing with open permits. You know, what happens when we do a municipal lien search? And on the municipal lien search, there's all kinds of open permits. I don't necessarily insure for the actual permits because it's not a title issue. We tell everybody that there are open permits because later in life, it could become an issue for the consumer. So you want to make sure that as your buyer, those permits are closed and you make sure they're closed properly, which is getting the contractors to sign off, going ahead and closing out the permit. And in some instances, there just wasn't a permit completed at all. So they have to go through the work of getting it done.
Yeah. That happens a lot on our end because we do a permit search and we can see that they're open, never closed, or they filed for one, never did the work,
Yep.
or there's no permit.
There's a lot of no permits.
Yes. There's a perception that title fees are just extra costs at closing. Can you tell us what the fees actually go towards?
So my fees, believe it or not, are one of the smallest part of the entire transaction when it all breaks down. My fees are actually my closing fee, which is what I get for basically processing the entire deal from start to finish. Then you've got the title search, which is obviously the search of public records to figure out what's out there so I can determine and issue the actual insurance policy. You've got the insurance policy, which is regulated by the state of Florida. So you're paying the actual promulgated rate. And then you've got any endorsements that the actual mortgage company would want, whether it be an environmental lien endorsement, would it be you're buying a manufactured home, so they want to have an additional endorsement on that, or it's the endorsement for the survey, you're in a plan unit development. Those are all additional, but they're all promulgated rate. So it's not like I have a huge markup on any of my fees. We're not allowed to charge junk fees at all. So everything that I do is fully disclosed. There's everything that's a line item, and it all goes towards the actual transaction for overhead. There's nothing there that could be misconstrued or taken wrong as to where the money actually goes because it is accounted for.
Is there kind of like a ballpark math, just a generic, like let's say I'm looking at a $500,000 home. Is there like a percent, or is there just something I could easily do a mathematic calculation and be like, my title is going to cost X?
You can, as far as what the promulgated rate would be, but then depending upon who you actually close with, you've got your closing fee, which changes from company to company. You've got your search fee that changes from company to company. So you could more or less sit there and ballpark in your head that if it's a $500,000 deal, you're looking at probably 2% maybe with all the costs that are incurred in there. As far as the title insurance, closing fee, title search, anything relatively, that would be more or less what I would think. That's really high, to be quite honest. But the bad part about it is it's not like a realtor commission.
Right.
It's not a certain percentage. Or the same thing when you go to go get a loan. You can't necessarily look at it as, well, the actual closing cost based upon the loan amount that you're borrowing is 1%, 2%. It's so difficult to actually put a number on based upon that side of it. You can always go off of the promulgated rate, which to do math.
Yeah.
But who wants to do math? That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
That's why we have a computer that does it for us, so we don't have to.
Well, who gets to choose the title company?
So whoever wants to pay for it. And in the contract, it is basically whoever picks gets to pay. 9 times out of 10 here in our area, we're so used to the seller picking and paying that the seller gets to drive the business. But if the seller doesn't really have anybody that they know of or they're comfortable in, they look towards the realtor. And their realtor normally has somebody that they know and trust. And that's who they tend to send their business to.
Yeah. So the buyer, it could be brought up
It can.
as part of a negotiation
It can.
point. If you had someone you'd done business with for years, you could slip that in there
Correct.
in the negotiation.
Correct.
And it's probably an underutilized tool.
It is, but a lot of times they're looking at it as the seller's going to pay my closing cost, so I'm just going to let the seller go ahead and run with whatever's needed.
Right.
It's not necessarily something that the buyer wants to actually pay for unless it gets down to a negotiating tool to where, no, I'm adamant, I really want to use this person, then I will pay for the actual title insurance myself.
Do you find I know it's like that in this state, but Georgia, surrounding
Georgia,
states, I mean, is it
It's
pretty much the
very
same?
it's very difficult because each state is governed differently and the contracts run different. I know Georgia is an attorney state, so I'm not really sure how that would work in that particular state. I've seen closing statements, but they don't necessarily make any sense to me, to be quite honest,
Yeah.
as to who pays for what.
I know, when I'm buying, when you're selling, you get to pick.
You do.
Easy. When I'm buying, I try to get the advantage. I want somebody that I work with, that I know that I can call
Right,
if there's an issue, or they can call me.
right.
And, I think that, as home buyers, you don't really think about the title process, but it's someone you want in your corner. I put it that way.
Correct. And a lot of it is, as far as being in the industry for so long, it's the knowledge is basically what it boils down to. And that's where it all comes back to. It's customer service and knowledge, where, like you said, you can pick up the phone and say, hey, what are we doing about this? What needs to be done? Can we fix it? Can we not? What are we going to do? And at the end of the day, it boils down to having that person that you know and trust to be in your corner to help you through it when it comes to it. Because a lot of people don't understand why I do what I do, other than I make you sign your life away.
Right. High pressure.
High pressure, exactly.
Are there any red flags that buyers should look out for, from the title company? Probably most of the times you're not seeing this until a settlement statement, I would think.
Well, the red flags as far as on title, or red flags as far as title companies kind of shady?
I would say probably the service side of it. Like, how do I know as a consumer? Because I'm always worried about this. And real estate's a dirty game. I always say, how am I not getting hurt, taken advantage of? I'm protected. That's ultimately what I care about.
So
and so there's some
basically,
red flags.
The red flags would be making sure you have the communication through the entire transaction, that there's complete transparency through all of it. You get the title commitment from the beginning. So you know exactly what you're buying. On the title commitment, it gives you what actually is of record, what has to be fixed. It's basically, I use it as our Bible to make sure that this is what's done in order to close. So you have your checklist. If there's anything on there that sticks out, there's a lien, you sign a contract with one person, and there's actually 3 people that are in title. That's kind of a red flag at that point in time of, hey, why are there 3 people and my contract has 1? As far as, you need to make sure you have an open avenue with the title company. You feel comfortable with them. You know what their fees are, because a lot of times that's the next part of it. Do you know what you're paying for? Because you can go to an attorney's office and close an attorney's office, and their fees are going to be different than my fees, because the fact that I'm a settlement agent, I don't have attorney's fees on top of it. Some attorneys do. So you kind of, as a consumer, have to be aware of what's out there as far as the title commitment. Are they going to do proper job on it? And communication and fees. You have to make sure you know what you're getting involved in
How quickly are you communicating with the buyer?
as soon as we get contract.
So as soon as a contract, boom, you're in there.
Correct.
And you have a portal that you communicate through, and
We do.
and paperwork.
We do. So we have a secure portal that we use because of the fact that, again, it goes back to fraud. We want to make sure that the consumer is 100% comfortable in everything they do. So we use Qualia Connect. And what it does, it goes directly to the consumer. They have their own login. They have everything they need to. They upload all the documentation from there and put in all their personal information, which pulls directly into our system. So it makes it easier for them. They feel more comfortable that they're not talking to somebody over the phone. They're not filling out a piece of paper and having to email it over or fax it through. Nothing can get lost in translation, so to speak, or nothing can go to you instead of coming to me. It all goes directly through the portal, which is nice.
Would it be a red flag if I sign a contract and I don't hear from my title agent for 7 days?
That would be very, yeah.
I mean,
It would be, to be
time
quite honest.
matters in a
Time
real estate
matters.
deal.
And it does.
Yeah.
Time matters because not only that, they should be reaching out to you because you have to make your earnest money deposit.
Yeah.
So where are you sending your money? What are you doing with it?
I always say if you hear nothing, it's not good in real
Correct.
estate because the process is on a timeline.
It
It's
is.
like a race as soon as you sign the contract.
It is.
All right, we got 30 days and everybody's full speed ahead. So if you're not hearing anything, to me, that's a tip off for sure.
It is definitely a tip off because, as you know, because you've bought and sold so frequently that you have to make sure that you turn in your earnest money deposit within 3 days minimum. So if you're not hearing from the actual title company as to where to drop your funds off or wire your funds to, then that's an immediate problem for sure. And then, of course, the next problem is, did they get you your title commitment in time? Because you, as the consumer, need to know what's of record. That goes directly to your agents, and then your agents get it to you so that you can see what's out there. And if that's not being done in accordance with the contract, then we as a title company have failed miserably.
We love pieces of trivia when it comes to real estate. What's the weirdest, most outdated law that affects title today?
At this point in time, a lot of people don't seem to understand that Florida is a constitutionally homesteaded state. So they don't feel that because they went in title as a married person, they need to worry about their spouse as far as signing out. Or why does their spouse have to sign the mortgage? I'm the one responsible for the note. It's ultimately making sure that everybody is protected because the fact that what happens if you die? Well, your spouse didn't know there was a mortgage on the property. So ultimately now she's going to lose her house because it's going to go into foreclosure. And that's a main thing of it. Or the next thing you know, he gets upset. They go through a whole, let's say, downtime in their life and they split up. Well, you still have the homestead property that needs to be addressed because they live in it together as husband and wife. He decides he's going to sell it out from underneath her.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Do you find that some parts of your job is marriage counselor and family therapist? Sounds like you deal with this.
In some instances, yes, because think about it. Sometimes you have really good chapters of your life and sometimes you have really bad chapters. And it's the chapters that make your life what it really is. Closing day can be the best day in the world, or in some instances, it's the most tearful day in the world because you have a chapter that's closing on your life that you never thought was going to.
Yeah. Real estate's such a big transaction. Most people do, 5-7 times in their lifetime probably to find out. I'm just thinking at the closing table, I'm married and didn't tell somebody, or some secret comes out of the family that you've been burying for years.
Oh, yeah.
And it shows itself on the legal paperwork.
It does.
And everybody's got to deal with it.
And no matter what, it has to be dealt with and addressed. There are instances where you're going through a divorce and you have to buy out your significant other. It's a bittersweet day that, yes, you're getting to keep the house, but again, that chapter is closing on your life and you now have to give the significant other a lump sum check so that you can have the house at the end of the day. And it goes back to the same thing of, I really never thought I was going to sell my home. And here I am. I have to sell it because I can't afford it anymore.
Do you think the buyer should read the title commitment or just sign it and hope for the best?
No, they definitely need to read it. And so do the realtors. Because of the fact that a lot of times what happens is when the title commitments come over, we try and tell them that, yeah, there is an issue. We need to address it. We need to get this fixed. But there's some times where they don't necessarily read that there's 3 mortgages. They don't necessarily read that there's 2 mortgages because of the fact that sometimes sellers just aren't necessarily forthcoming with information as to they went ahead and did a refinance last year and they're upside down. Well, we can't sell your house. There's been instances where got to the closing table and the seller had to bring money because of the fact that they were upside down. And the real estate agent didn't know that because they weren't forthcoming with the information. But you have to read the title commitment no matter what, because it goes back to, again, what if there's 3 people in title? You sign the contract with one. What if there's 3 mortgages? What if there's liens? What if there's somebody that's dead? How do you address all that? And that's where it goes back to making sure that you're informed as the consumer by reading, again, the title commitment, the checklist of what's actually out there that needs to be addressed before the property is ultimately yours.
So if you're a home buyer, the title company and your closing agent and the whole process is basically like a detective figuring out if the property that you have under contract that you're putting your hopes and dreams on is clear, can be legally bought,
Correct.
and you're protected.
You're protected. At the end of the day, that's what you want. You want to be able to go into your house and know your house is yours, or that piece of land that you just bought, or that commercial building, or whatever it is that you're buying is ultimately yours 100%. You don't want to have to worry about later on down the line, you go to sell it, or you go to refinance, or you go to do anything on that piece of property that requires you getting another title search done to where anything's going to pop up, to where it's like, oh no, what needs to be done now? Because that prohibits you from making the next step that you need to make. And that's where it's very important to have that knowledge, if you will, that your house is completely clean. It's great. It's yours. And you don't have any issues.
This is just a hypothetical scenario. Let's say you bought your house, you're in it, you find out that they didn't have the legal right to sell it. Those people want the house. They don't want to give you the deal because now I'm saying title company failed, go on their E&O insurance, boom, it's a process, but it would get all right. Can they force you to move?
Yeah,
So they have the legal right to force you to move out of that house.
they do, because it's not yours. And that's where it gets very muddy, and a lot of attorneys get a lot of money on that deal because ultimately it's going to be a fight, and depending upon, it's probably going to end up having to go through the court to figure out who the rightful owner is other than the person that
Right.
it all gets muddy when you do anything like that, because now it comes back to, hey, Aaron, guess what? I actually own your house. Well, what do you mean you own my house? I bought it from Missy. Well, she didn't have the right to sell it. It was actually mine. So you're living in this person's house who is now telling you that you need to get out by all rights. You kind of do, but in the same respect, you kind of don't. That's where it goes back to having an attorney, going back to the title company to figure out exactly what happened and how to fix it. And ultimately, that's where title insurance comes in, and that's where you have your claim, is you go back and get it resolved somehow, some way. And it'd probably take time, but who's going to win on that one? That's definitely
A mess. You don't
a
want to go
mess, an absolute mess.
to. Yeah. So it's.
Which, don't do that to me,
No.
please. My heart just kind of fluttered on
Yeah.
that one.
I think that title is one of those things that buyers take for granted. You don't pay attention to it until
You need it.
there's something.
Exactly. Well, it's the same thing with any type of insurance. Until
Yeah.
you actually need it, you don't think about it. The one good thing about title insurance, it's a one time. You only pay for it one time and one time only.
And it's good for as long as
And
I'm
it's good
there.
for as long as they actually own the property.
An insurance policy with no renewal.
Exactly.
What a relief.
I know.
So-
Something you don't have to continue paying on.
Yeah, that's good. Well, that's been our overview of title today. Hopefully, we've brought you some insights and made it a little bit easier to understand. Thank you so much for being with us, Missy.
Thanks for inviting me.
It
I
was
had fun.
great. And if you need to get in touch with her, how do the folks get in touch with you?
So you can contact my office, which is going to be 386-878-2930, or you can always stop by, which was Aaron's old building at one point in time we moved into, at 904 West New York Avenue.
Yep. So I've used Missy multiple times. I trust you. It's been smooth transactions.
Thank you.
Every time. And we just had a hairy one where I could communicate with her.
We did.
And we could figure out, is this thing closing or not?
Did it close, Aaron?
Nope, it did not. And we talked multiple times, and I would always ask her, what do you think? What's the odds of it closing? You know, what? And then it just never
Yeah.
made its way through. But I had someone in my corner, and I appreciate that. So thank you.
You're welcome. It
All
was
right.
very good to work with you too.
Yep. Well, this has been another episode of Have a Sip Podcast. Join us next time.